Hey guys, does your garden sometimes get taken over and look like this? I'm going to show you how I clean up and share some tips with you about what I've learned about this space in the last year. Let's get to work. So I'm standing roughly in the same place as I was earlier, and what a difference that was. So let me clean up and we'll talk about what I did. Hey, so let's talk about what I did. It is a hot day, which could be a benefit to what I actually did today. So the end of last growing season got away from me a little bit, and what that ended up doing for a half thought out garden space, it allowed all these weeds to take over the area. And so to make it low impact and low stress, what I ended up doing was I just cut these weeds down to their base. I did not worry about the root systems because what I ended up doing on top was layering down 2, in some places 3 layers of cardboard, and I mulched over top. And as I've talked about before, I sort of swear by this method because as new tender growths from weeds pop up when you amend the soil or turn things over, or even when these roots start regenerating the weeds that were once photosynthesizing above the surface, those tender offshoots and new growths will have a hard time breaking through the layers of cardboard and will thus eventually die out and putting some of the nutrients back into the soil that they were collecting. Also, with putting in a half thought out garden space was I just put things in the ground to put them in the ground. They grow better, they do better, they last better, and it's just better for the plant to get them out of those cans and into the ground when possible. So at the end of last year, I put things in the ground knowing that this year I would have more of a vision on what I wanted to do. So what that translated into for me was I ended up having to, instead of carve in the border with lavender, I had to carve it out on the walkway. And another thing was I thought I had this vision on how to control peppermint. At the end of last season, I bought this little tiny single can of, in fact, I have one. Let me get it. All right, this, do you see this? It almost looks like it's dried out and dead, right? So I have a soft spot for a lot of these plants because a lot of them just need a little bit of care and then they rebound and thrive just fine, which is exactly what you saw in the video where I'm digging up all this mint. I put one of these peppermint plants in the ground at the end of last summer, and as the snow and leaves push the stems down, where they made contact with the ground, they put down roots and then they put up new stalks and mint plants this spring and summer, and it took off like a weed. All of that tear out of mint is from one plant, just like that. But if you like mint, but you don't have the space to allow for it to take over all wild like that, you're going to definitely want to follow the recommendation to container plant mint. I don't know what was going through my mind where I thought I would somehow not have this problem in the spring, but I did. And even with tearing some of this out and suppressing it down, I expect this to sort of shoot out from under the cardboard and come up outside of the property and spring up new mint plants by the end of this summer. So at the beginning of this project, it looks wild and untamed, and at the end of the project, it looks a little bit more neat and tidy, but it also looks a little boring, and I'm okay with that. It is a somewhat growing and evolving space. Well, of course it's a growing space, but it's a evolving in design space. And as all the established weeds and new growths that are popping up that are not welcome, I'm waiting out the space to become ready for planting with new ideas. So while it looks like there's not a whole lot going on, there actually is beneath the mulch layer, and I'm really excited about what new pollinator friendly plants I'm going to put in there, maybe by the end of the summer when I'm cleaning out the greenhouse. I'd like to know, what do you guys do when you define a new space? Do you just sort of let it hang out, or do you put a couple things in and then reassess your vision for it? Do you map it all out ahead of time, or do you just like a clean blank slate to stare at it afterwards? Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you've been botanically inspired. Remember to keep growing your environment, and I'll share more with you soon. Tschüss!